What's wrong, Pop?
You okay? It's all right. Yo, you mind taking me to the doctor, son? I appreciate it, man.
What, Derek? What? Why are you paging me like that? Hey, Sean, come here, baby. Give me a hug.
Can't find my son's insurance so I could take him to the doctor is what? Maybe if you were attending to your child like you're supposed to, I would have to be blowing your damn pager up.
You know what, Derek? Don't talk to me about how I take care of Sean. It ain't nothing. I can take him with me right now.
What are you smoking? You stupid? You ain't taking my son nowhere.
He's my son, Derek.
Oh, with that. He's my son.
No, fuck that. He's my son.
Yo, who the hell you think you barking
I'm barking
at?
at you. You know what? I didn't come here to fight with you, Derek. I'm gonna take Sean to my mother's house.
Oh, okay. Now you want to take him to your mother's, right?
Yes.
I'll take him to your mother.
You gonna take him to Mount Vernon, Derek? How? You don't even have a car.
All right. You see that shit? You trying to take me there, right?
You
want me to go there?
Wait, no, hold it. Wait, no. Enough. Look, kid, look. You got everybody all up in your business. Look what you done. Y'all, come on, take it up and get it to the hallway. Enough is enough. Come on, let's go in the building. Both of y'all, you know better than that. Come on. You know better than that.
Just give it to me. Why are you smoking?
Give her the baby.
Why are you acting like
Give her the baby.
Move for me, man. What's wrong?
Tell me, why are you
Give her the baby. Give her that baby. Have some respect for the child, not yourself. You know better than that, son.
It's okay.
Now, good. Now, maybe we all can just go somewhere and calm down and talk this out.
There's nothing to talk about. Thank you. Goodbye.
Where you going?
No, you should know better. No.
Talk to her, man.
Put out with your hands,
I'm just
son.
gonna talk to her.
Derek, calm down. What
Oh,
happened?
no, you don't.
I'm just gonna talk to her. You see, you ain't right. You know that, right? Always done right by you and Sean, man. If you think you're gonna come to my fucking neighborhood with some next nigga, drive off into the sunset with my son, it's not happening. My child. They'll take death before I let something like that set off up in here, man. Take him upstairs. Now!
Nia, no. Derek, that's fucked up. You think you just gonna throw me up against the wall like I'm some street hoe? I should get your ass kicked right now.
Get out of here. Get your ass across the street. Get your ass across the block.
Go ahead, Tasha. Get my ass whooped. I beg you.
Hello, folks, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Wilson Morales. I'm the editor and founder of BlackFilmingTV.com. What you just saw just now was a clip to a film that appeared 20 years ago called Amour Infinity, written, directed, and produced by Jerry LaMothe. And I saw this movie at the Urban World Film Festival. And interesting enough, there's a lot of movies I see at festivals throughout the last 20 to 30 years. But what captured my heart about this movie is that it came from a place of heart. It was a story that a lot of people could relate to. And I think, here's a story about a guy who's basically trying to make ends meet while supporting the child he has with his ex-girlfriend. And he's trying to move on. And then somehow she comes back in his life and he has to decide, should he take her back or should he go on and move forward? And for a lot of people, that story still resonates today in the lives of a lot of people. So, since then, Jerry has gone on to direct different films, TV projects. He did Nora's Hair Salon. He's done a number of episodes for TV. And, he's done some short films and he still continues to work in this business. It's not always easy. I've seen a lot of directors come and go out of festivals. It's not easy to raise the money to come up with the next project. It's easy to say this is what I want to work on, but to raise that money for the next project, that's not an easy thing to do. And just raising capital and getting talent and having people believe in you is a chore itself. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to bring in director Jerry LaMothe. Jerry,
What up?
congratulations, 20 years.
Yeah, bro. 20
You know,
years. Yes,
now let me
sir.
take a step back here. Actually, so going back 20 years
Mhm.
ago, like any filmmaker, talk to me about the struggles to trying to put together this film. But let's talk about the conception of this movie. Like when you wanted to make a film, was it
Mhm.
this story you wanted to come out with?
That's a great question. I mean, the whole genesis behind Amour Infinity came about as a result of me just wanting to be an actor and wanting to be in a film. Um, I've been a big film buff and admirer of cinema for as long as I can remember. For those who've heard the story a million times, my father used to take me to the movie theaters on Flatbush Avenue, where a lot of the Jehovah Witness churches and the Models, those were all movie theaters. The infamous Kenmore Theater on Church Avenue in Flatbush. I was out there faithfully watching films. So, in my 20s, I really wanted to break into the industry, and I didn't know how to go about doing it. So basically, what I started doing is starring in a couple of thesis films for NYU film school grads and Columbia film school grads. And one day I heard on the radio that this festival was going on in Acapulco, the Acapulco Black Film Festival. And I was like, yeah, I need to get up in there and try to get some information and resources and connect with some people over there, like minded people who wanted to break in the industry. And I signed on for the Actors Boot Camp, which was being hosted by Bill Duke and Mr. Robert Townsend. Um, got a lot of information, a myriad of crucial information. And one key thing they said was, as people of color, you don't have the luxury of just being an actor. I always remembered that. That always stayed with me, and that you really have to go out there, and if you don't write, if you don't produce, if you don't direct, you have to surround yourself with that core group of individuals and kind of form your tribe, if you will, and get out there and shoot film. And now that the digital era was starting to come into play, they were really diligent about
Mhm,
really putting it in our heads that you really have no excuse. And that if
mhm,
you guys are serious about your craft, somebody in this room is going to come back next year with a movie. And I remember looking around and I was saying, man, I really need to get with everyone in this room because I don't know who that person's going to be who's going to come back with a movie next year. When I got home, when I got back to Brooklyn, man, I was just so inspired by that 3-4 day boot camp. I went to Barnes and Nobles. I picked up every book I could pick up on writing, directing, and I always felt I had an eye for directing. It's just I was so focused on the acting element of it. But on many times when I'd be on sets, I was an extra on The Sopranos and a couple of other films and TV shows back then, and I'd always watch, the director, and basically decided, you know what, I'm gonna shoot my own film. Didn't not really knowing what I was about to embark on or what I was getting myself into, but I wanted to do a love story. I've always been a big fan of the tragic love stories, the Romeo and Juliet's, the West Side Stories, and I thought that would be an ideal canvas to do my directorial debut, and that's how that came about.
mhm. Now, obviously, putting together a story is one thing, but then now you have to
Hmm.
go out and get the funding, because not only to start it but to complete it.
Right.
Since we're talking about independent films, funding's everything. You know,
Hmm.
funding is everything to complete a movie. And
Yes,
then
sir.
you wearing many hats. You decided to star in your own movie as opposed to going out there and finding an
Hmm.
actor to play you. So talk to me about one, starring your own movie,
Hmm.
and two, getting funding.
Yeah, that's the fun part. That was really interesting. I initially started out saving my own money to kind of get to the development slash pre-production stage, but I realized quickly that I was going to need far more money to pull this thing off. And so, interestingly enough, what I did was, in true form, I started asking some friends and family for money. But at the end of the day, my producers, my investors, the Arifi family, who I'm forever indebted to, the Arifi family, David Arifi, Jerry Arifi, are some restaurateurs, entrepreneurs in the hood, in the community. They own a chain of fried chicken spots.
Mhm,
And I basically had a rapport with them from the years of just going in there, in the late nights and, knocking on that little side vestibule window, ordering my chicken nuggets and fries and my pistachio milkshake. That was just the given. And I told the youngest one, who's also ironically, his name is Jerry as well. I mentioned to him I had this endeavor that I wanted to embark on, and that I wanted to write, produce, direct, and shoot my own film, and I needed financing, and I needed at least about 30 G's to pull this thing off. Um, and he basically set up a meeting for me to meet up with his family. And so a week later, I was sitting in the back kitchen. You know, it was dimly lit like a scene from The Godfather. And the patriarch of the family met with me, and he remembered me since I was a kid, always coming around the way. And I told him I needed some money to get this film off the ground and shoot it. And they said to me, I said, oh, and by the way, I'm leaving out a crucial part, Wilson. I was scheduled to start shooting the following week. So my cast, we'd already been rehearsing. We was ready to go. No one knew that I didn't have the money to, I probably had enough to get us through 2 days of shooting, tops, 2 or 3 days. But the cast wasn't aware of that. So the Arifi family said, okay, well, here's the deal. We'll come on set next week. And if we like what we see, we'll back you on it. And, you know, my closing remarks to them was, I can't promise you, I can't ensure you that you'll get your money back. The only thing I can really say is you'll change my life forever. You will have changed someone's life forever if you help me and create this opportunity for me to get this film off the ground. Fast forward a week later, they came on set. They hung out for about 2 days. They loved what they saw. They saw a really eclectic and diverse and professional crew, you know, just guerrilla style, running and gunning and helping me bring my vision to life. They called me to the back. They're like, we got you. We're going to rock with you. We're going to ride with you. We're going to see you through this. And that's how I got my first film financed. And it's never been that simple ever since. It was, I got back from ABFF probably in the summer, like July, August, January the following year. That was in 1999. January 2000, we were in pre-production on Amour Infinity.
So you got the film done, you know, and then you were able to get it into festivals. And then did that help you out in terms of meeting more people, getting the film released by taking it to festivals?
It was a really interesting experience with that, because this was 2000. And so the DV, the whole DV phenomenon was almost like a stepchild of cinema, stepchild of, theatrical releases. 35 millimeter was still king. And so what ended up happening, and I'm going to jump around a little bit, we ended up getting accepted into a couple of film festivals that saw it at Urban World, because Urban World was where it actually premiered. That's where the world premiere of Amour Infinity went down. It was an article in the Daily News the day before. So there was a lot of buzz brewing about the film. And so it was met with a lot of fanfare. It did extremely well in the film festival circuit. But what started to happen was the top tier festivals like your Sundance and even your Chicago International Film Festivals were accepting it on the strength of their scouts who had seen it in the film festivals. As you know, as a film critic, you have scouts that come from different film festivals to come see films that are playing, and based on the momentum and the vibe and the feedback they get, a lot of times you get invited into a film right then and there. And that's what happened with Amour Infinity. But when it came time to submit and going through all the paperwork and releasing the format, and they saw that it was on DV, they were like, oh, no, we're not playing DV. I mean, it's or digital for that matter. That might be hard to grasp now, but there was a time where there was really that bias, especially with the top tier film festivals. They felt like that was a step below accept the film with that. So that was the first challenge I was met with. The second challenge I was met with was getting a major distribution was just as difficult because, in all frankness, it's not a very polished film. It's very gritty, it's low budget, it's indie. So we thought we were going to go out there based on the hype that we got from the festival circuit. Surely, we could get a distribution deal and get a theatrical run with it. And that turned out not to be the case. Again, not just because of the look of the film, but there were no stars. There were no, major players in the game. So at that point, my manager got a call from a major studio, and they offered me, I believe it was $250,000 to sell the rights to the film, and they were going to redo it. But I had to walk away from it altogether. No credits, no writing, no, nada. And I vividly remember they wanted to bring in Vivica Fox and Wesley Snipes to play Amour and Derek. And for $250, you know, they'll cut a check and I could just walk away, and they were going to redo it. And I turned it down. You know, young, passionate filmmaker. I'm like, nah, B, like, you're not going to take this away from me. This is my, you know, stepping stone into the game. And believe me, I've had a couple of phases and chapters in my life where I questioned whether or not I would have turned that money down, you know, today. But I don't regret it. It was a wise choice. And what we ended up doing is we four-walled it. They're my investors, and we did a limited distribution, and we released it ourselves in the 4 or 5 major markets. You know, Chicago, Atlanta, New York, DC. I was able to reach out to the I forgot the terminology, but basically the gatekeeper of the distributors who decide which films they're going to enter and what slots and, you know, where they're going to come in. So I was able to get it in like the Sony movie theater and a couple of other big, you know, major franchises. And we did like a 1 week or 2 week run. Couldn't afford to do it any much more than that, because for those of you that are familiar with four-walling, you're basically paying out of pocket. And so for every day the theater is there, you're paying for it. So needless to say, that was the story with that. Got some press behind that. You, Wilson, as you know, bro, you know, we go back 20 years. You were one of the first critics, one of the first journalists to cover the films. You've always shown me a lot of love, and I've always appreciated you for that. Which, by the way, I felt you were fitting for this for the anniversary. So,
and I appreciate you asking. Mm-hmm. And you know, you think about it. I even think now the fact that they came to you and says, "Listen, we want to buy you. We want to buy the script. You know, you got to walk away." And this, you can only imagine how many people have taken that sort of deal throughout their careers. You know, and how many potential filmmakers and actors, directors we've lost out on because they've taken the money. Now, granted, we don't know what circumstances they were in at the time, and $250,000 is a lot of money. You know,
it is even today.
But like you said, yeah, you know, you stuck to your guns, you know, and you know, you were able to get that film out, and you're still working today. With that in mind, we're going to talk about some of your cast members. We're going to bring in Jamie O'Hare, if that's the way you pronounce it, if I'm right. You know, he's going to come on in. Jeremy Burton. If we can come on in, and he's going to talk about just being in this movie and how he came about to be in this movie and working with you.
No doubt.
Hey, Jamie.
Hi.
How are you?
Can you guys hear me? It sounds a little. I'm great. Can you hear me?
There is a little echo.
It sounds distorted.
I'm good on my end. Can you hear me?
I can hear
you hear me, Jerry?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you, Wilson.
Yes. So yeah, so Jamie, obviously, you know, this was a big role for you.
Okay.
Can you talk to me about, you know, getting this role, and was it challenging for you, you know, to be the lead, knowing you're on this many pages?
So
Jamie?
I can't really hear.
What I was going to say is, can you talk about getting the role, and was it ever daunting for you knowing you're the lead when you're on a lot of the pages on the script?
It's really bad. I can't hear.
Okay, let me see if I can type it in. You know, let's see. Look at your box and see if you can read that, and then figure it out.
Did I out?
Can you read the private chat? Can you hear us at all?
You might, maybe if she comes out and then comes back in, maybe that'll solve the issue.
You're good, right, Jerry? You and I can hear each other well, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so All right, so to Jamie comes back in, talk to me about bringing in Jamie. You know, obviously you're looking for a lead actress to play the role. You know, so are you back, Jamie?
So, yes, I'm going to respond. I read in the chat. You asked about being a lead in the film.
Yes.
Forgive me, I don't
There's
know
an
what
echo.
There's an echo. What I will say is that Harry, actually talking about hearing about the same. That was my baby. I heard this ad about the Untitled Film Festival, and I was determined to be there. I too applied for Bill Duke's Actors Boot Camp and was and got in. You know, he required us to read all these books and be prepared to do monologues. You know, and it was like Macbeth. You had to pick different types of monologues to be prepared for it. And so I was prepared. And when I had an opportunity to do a monologue, I actually changed what I was going to do because I saw such brilliant performances. We had people like Laz Alonso in our class. And I actually left that particular day and went back to the hotel and wrote my own monologue. And it was a very personal monologue. I came back to class the following day and I performed. And after that class, Jerry approached me and he said that, you know, we were going to do something together. So that was the beginning of our relationship as far as, you know, fellow artists and just respecting each other's abilities. And so from that experience, there were a few who stayed in touch that were very serious. And when we were back in New York, I know Jerry and I think it was the Nas video as background. And, you know, when you're background, you have these incredible conversations. And I can't remember exactly what the conversation was, but I was talking to this young guy and having a disagreement, an intellectual disagreement. And Jerry paid attention to that because he's so observant. And once we got to the part about talking about the film, you know, I remember he also gave me an opportunity to write my monologue or I wrote a part in our Trivia Pursuit scene on that experience. So it was serious. I do remember I think it was supposed to be a short film at one point. And then, you know, we got involved. I was the SAG actor and I was very much by the book at that point, scared that I would get kicked out. And I told Jerry and he made it a SAG film. So he had to go through certain paperwork, applications and things. And he was serious. He did everything that was required. At that point, I remember
I completely forgot
he
about
was
that.
writing
That is
more
true.
and it became this feature. And yeah, and remember, I think even like special ed was interested. I remember that, you know, it started to get this attention. And the buzz in the New York indie actor world, you know, was that this project was happening. So it was really exciting, actually, you know, and yeah, I mean, it was an amazing experience. I mean, we had our challenges, of course, but I was allowed, Jerry allowed me to be very much involved in helping to edit the script and helping to cast. You know, we had a line at 440 Lafayette, for those of you who are New York actors and remember, it was a line outside the door. Like people were so excited about this film, and we could feel it. You could feel the energy. It was happening. So it was. When I look back on it, I don't think Jerry. I can't speak for him, but I don't think Jerry or myself. I don't think we knew what was going to happen with it. I mean, I had hopes. He had hopes. Of course, he's the visionary. But it was very exciting. It was.
I typed it in. Can you talk about I was
See, I'm trying trying to.
What I was going to say is, like, can you talk about playing this role and how you related to the character? Because this is a story that people can relate with. So what sort of research did you do, or is it you and Jerry going back and forth as far as how to play her to the screen?
So that's a very good question. Originally, I think Amour was, I think there was a different type of cancer. I think it was it breast cancer at first, and then it was changed. I can't remember, but I know that the diagnosis, once I knew that it was going to be ovarian cancer, I actually did research and went to an ovarian cancer center in New York. And I was able to meet with survivors. And I spent some time talking to a particular woman there. I wish I could recall her name, who gave me a lot of valuable information. And I shared it with Jerry, and he even, he made the adjustment. So I think with ovarian cancer, you experience, vaginal dryness. There's a lot of very specific things you experience. And Jerry supported and wanted to be true to the character as I did. So he made certain adjustments with the script to fit, this particular type of cancer. So that's kind of the extent that I was going through. As far as nature of Amour, I could very much relate because, I felt a lot of her qualities were my qualities as well, and so it wasn't difficult to relate at all. The kindness, the optimism, the fight in her. There are a lot of qualities that appeal to me. The innocence and and the challenge of knowing that this situation can be terminal. That was really like the challenge with playing Amour, how to convey that. Because for me, Jamie, at that time, even now, death is not something I would dwell on or even consider. I hadn't had those types of personal challenges. So it required a lot of digging to be able to bring Amour to life. And also, this was my first film. This was my first role as a film actress and lead. I was in the theater much more at that time. I had been doing small things, but this was my first time, with this kind of responsibility in front of the camera for a film. So it wasn't easy.
Did this role give you more, being that you just mentioned this was your first film role, having done it, did it give you the confidence to go out and for more roles? What did this role do for you?
So I think I could hear the majority of the question. What did this role do for me? Is that what you asked?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, it was, so I went from attending film festivals, hoping and desiring to be in a film that was at one of the major, especially Black film festivals, to actually having that real experience. So when we premiered at Urban World, and the house was packed, I didn't even have a seat. So that right there was just incredible. That experience was incredible. Jerry and I were standing in the back of the theater. I don't know if you remember that, Jerry, but we had no seats. And then my mentor, who, God rest her soul, Miss Tina Satin, who studied and worked with Ossie Davis, Ruby Dee, Sidney Poitier. She was my guest. So she was my guest at this premiere. So what it did for me, first of all, was it validated my dreams. It validated my ability to do what I thought I could do, and to even, to go forward, to move forward. That was the initial effect. And then on top of that, because Jerry did allow me to be a huge participant in making this film, it empowered me to know what I could do. So, you know, it inspired me to make my own film, you know. So I too started off as an actor, and that was my goal. I didn't want to do anything else. But like my self-appointed mentors, Ruby and Asi, I jumped behind the camera. And also watching Jerry do what he did from I was in Barnes and Noble with him. We were looking at books when the budget was written out on this little piece of paper, you know. And so to see every step and to be a part of every step, it empowered me. And I did eventually go on and become a filmmaker in addition to continuing my acting career. So, and I'm still making films now. So I didn't know that that's what I'd be doing primarily. Um, I still feel like acting is my first love. But yeah, so it did a lot for me ultimately. So, okay, I'm reading. I can't hear anything right now. If you can hear me, I can't hear.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
When was the last time you saw the film?
Oh, so the last time I saw the film actually was probably about maybe, I think it was like 2 months ago, because it was a friend of mine saw it on Tubi and sent me a link. And then what I did was I took out my DVD, so I still have a DVD because I wanted to watch it and be able to stop it and that. So I watched it about 2 months ago, but prior to that, it had been a really long time. I know, yeah, when you look back now and go back over all the things you thought versus all the things that actually were happening, and just really taking the experience, I was really most impressed with the cast, the actual, excuse me, collection of all the talent. I mean, a lot of us are still friends to this day. We still see each other, and it's everyone's. For the most part, people continue, you know, in this independent entertainment world, and some people broke out into more of the commercial experience as well. But it's pretty cool that this synergy was created with this project that is continuing, and it has like a tree with roots, and people are sprouting and doing their own thing and coming back together. And you know, in retrospect, you know, it's just it's for me, I have a lot of gratitude for being a part of the film. And yeah, one thing I do want to say is that when, you know, people talk about having a vision for completing something, Jerry purchased a necklace that had the logo, which he used for Amour Infinity, and he used to wear that. And I wonder if you still have that, Jerry. But that was the logo. I actually found the first script that you gave me. I have it in LA. I'm in Flint, Michigan right now, visiting family. But I have the original script in LA with highlights, with notes that you and I were on the phone for like 5 hours going through, with the logo. And I looked at it and thought about the necklace that you had. And I was like,
Yeah.
wow, you know, it's interesting how pieces of your vision, you know, you manifest, and then you look up and now it's 20 years later, and it's kind of it's an independent Black cult classic love story, you know, a Brooklyn love story. So Yeah,
That's
I don't know if
good.
I answered the question, but
That's dope.
yeah.
You definitely answered it. I want to bring on two more cast members, Marquis Adams and Jazz Anderson. There you go.
Yay. Jerry
Yo.
LaMothe. What's good?
Yeah. The team is back. The team is back. That's right.
Good to see y'all.
I'm sorry. We look good, black people. I don't know if y'all saying what I'm saying, but we look damn good. I'm sorry, I had to say it.
Yeah, we do.
That's right.
So, okay. Can you guys hear me? Hello?
I can hear you. I just put it on mute because of the noise.
I can hear you.
Hello?
I can hear you.
Okay. So, Marquis and Jazz, I'll start off with you, Marquis. Talk to me about, obviously how this role came about for you and working with Jerry, and then we'll go on to, and then Jazz can answer that right afterwards.
Oh, it was kind of personal with me and Jerry. We lived in Atlanta. And we met on an audition. And back then in Atlanta, there was an audition. Everybody in Atlanta was on that audition. So it just wasn't a big film city like it is now. We met and we became friends instantly. He was like, "Hey, I'm doing this movie. I definitely just want you to be a part of it." And I was like, "All right, cool." And I had moved off to LA from there to do my thing out in LA. And he just called me out of the blue, say, "Hey man, I got that movie. I'm ready." But he didn't realize how broke I was. I was like, "Oh, I need a plane ticket for that." So I had to fly to New York. Family helped me out. My mom bought me a plane ticket. I said, "I really want to go to New York. I want to do this film." And I flew to New York and I shot the film. And that's basically how it came about. We were strangers and basically became friends. We know each other 24 years now. And I'm just proud of what he's doing.
Mm-hmm. And you, Jazz? How did the role come about for you, Jazz?
I really don't know. You know what I'm saying? I can't even think about how it all happened. But it was blessed. Jerry's spirit, man, is kindred, and we worked for him. We was family. You understand? Like we put, like, I remember late nights and Jay be like, "Listen, man, I know it's late, but come on, family, like, you know what I'm saying? Just work with me, give me enough." For real, seriously. Nobody had vanity about him. Nobody didn't want to. We were happy to go that extra mile. We were happy to put that extra work in. Everybody on set was just blessed. Everybody on set was there for the purpose of telling this love story. You get what I'm trying to say? It truly was an ensemble piece. And I was blessed to meet this man and Jamie, and it was one of those moments that you never forget. It was my first film. I had locks, and I still remember like being nervous and just being in a comfortable space. Like it was a safe place for us, as artists, and we would be on the side of the set helping each other out with lines, and I mean it was family. He built a family, man, and not many people could do that, especially as a director, putting on the top hat of rising in his own film as the lead, and handling everything else Jerry did. I don't know how you did it, brother, but you did it, and since then, we look, when there's a will, there's a way, and you made that way. You always make a way, Jerry. Like I'll ride through the hellfire for you, baby. You know what I'm saying? Because that's just what we do. We get to that page, that's what we do. We take that responsibility, and Jerry does it right because he cares. You understand that? He cares. Because Black lives does matter, like for real. So, I don't know, like 20 years later, and we're still here, we're still pushing, we're still rising, we're still growing, we're still learning, It's just beautiful, man, to see when the process comes into fruition on something so much bigger that we really had no idea it was going to be. And that just truly shows you that it's the universe of God that has a control over what's what, man. And all we got to do is move with it. And I'm just I'm blessed, man. I am content and blessed, and it is exciting to see the rise of everybody that's on this page. I mean, well, we know each other, man. Like, and you've always supported me, even in doing what I'm doing, and I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it, and I'm finally living it in the authentic self. So to all you guys, I love you, man, and yeah, that's it. That's it.
Well, Jazz, I know you've been doing well. I still see you're probably still getting these checks coming from these Law and Order episodes that air every week with Stephen Lang. So I'm like, oh, that's Jazz now. You've been getting them good checks for 20 years.
Listen, they're supposed to come in. They're supposed to come in. I put the work in. That's right. I should get paid for what I do. Yeah, that's right. But Jerry taught me a lot. I never told you, Jerry. We talk, we spit. But I've always looked up to you as like a older uncle, man. And you've always showed me class, and you've always showed me how to hold myself as a gentleman, man. Like, Jerry is a gentleman in so many ways. And it's not in a lot of cases you'll get somebody so rare and so pure, because the light that they have is not selfish. The creativity that they create, they know they have to give back, and it's hard to give your baby back, And so, I mean, Jerry, we worked on so many different projects, and I don't know, like COVID-19 has got me open up on what really matters, and you guys really matter, man. And the lasting relationship that we've all built, that's what really matters. That foundation is what really matters, man. Like, that's why it was special. You get that? Because it was fucking authentic as hell, man. Like, you couldn't write it. You know what I'm saying? It was lived. We lived every moment to moment. And we had our little, like she said, family fight, little bickers here and there. But at the end of the day, we knew. Even if we didn't know, we knew.
Jerry. How long was the shoot?
The shoot. Can you guys hear me? Sorry.
Okay.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
We shot over a span of 3 weeks. 21 days over a span of 3 weeks. What we did was we would shoot literally from 6:30, 7 o'clock at night during the weekdays until about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. The following day, and I'd go home, maybe get 3 hours of rest, and then go to work. I was still working. I was still doing the 9 to 5 when we shot Amour Infinity. And we would shoot all day on Saturdays, sometimes even on Sundays with our day off. But even sometimes when I do see Amour Infinity, I kind of cringe, because I could see how tired I am working all day and then going on set, shooting until the wee hours of the morning. And that was, just basically guerrilla filmmaking, man, by any means necessary. That's how we were putting it together. So it was pretty crazy.
It's a testament that you could still be working 20 years later. Each of you is still working in different forms, whether you're an actor, director, it's not easy to stay in this business. Just like Marquis mentioned, no one ever talks about like the cost when you get a call to be in a film and you're like, I don't got the money to go to LA. I don't got the money to go to New York. And then you got to come up with that money within a span of days, because, plane tickets ain't cheap when you're trying to book within 5 days, so that's not easy. And that's the struggle of an actor or a director or anything else. Obviously for a director, and for you, Jerry, trying to put everything together as a director, producer, writer, you either got to have the money up front ready to go, or you got to keep scrounging, because nothing's ever perfectly planned. There's no A to Z right away. There's an A, there's an A1, A2, A3, then you get to B and so forth. So, completing this movie, that was great. Obviously getting it to a festival, getting it seen, getting it written about, so that way you can have something to go on to your next project. And for the actors, you have something you can showcase to other people, a reel. for Jamie to take this and obviously continue your work as an actress and then moving on to director. Every project brings something to you. Jerry, you've got a new project you're going to be working on now, Terror Lake Drive. Let's talk about that and where are we with that?
Sure. So Terror Lake Drive is a new anthology limited series that will be released on the UMC network, the Urban Movie Channel, this fall. You could get on UMC via Amazon Prime. Um, there's an app, it's available. You could get it. So definitely cop the UMC, check out their programming. Original programming right now, they got a lot of solid content out there. The Black Experience and Terror Lake Drive is basically a story about a young woman who, in the midst of, ironically, a pandemic and in a culture of social distancing, relocates to the city of Atlanta in hopes of a better life for herself and her son. But she has a very stormy and ominous past that continues to haunt her, and till she's forced to deal with it. So the series stars Shannon Kane, Malik Yoba, Lamont Rucker, Danielle's 16 years old. Definitely gonna draw a lot of attention with this, so I'm really excited about it. And it'll be released in the fall.
This is not no P-Valley type of story, right? I was like, this is not like no P-Valley story.
I'm afraid not. I'm afraid not. No, it won't be R-rated.
So obviously,
this is more in the vein of a suspense psychological drama.
So like you continue to draw good talent, and that's a testimony to the work you've done before. Obviously we know who Malik Yoba is. We've seen Shannon Kane. With the names that you just mentioned, what goes into getting talent, in terms of like, do you have a big audition process 20 years later now? Like, okay, are you in a position where you can say, I'm going to have an audition for certain roles, or are you in a position like you're calling up people like you did Jazz and Marquis and Jamie says, listen, I got a role for you?
That's a great question. I would say it's a combination of the two. Jamie mentioned earlier, as far as the open call and the cattle call, I took a page out of some other great directors in the past who understood the market value and having open calls. All back to social media. There wasn't any IG. There wasn't even a Facebook when I did Blackout or Amour Infinity. So basically, you get your own buzz, so to speak. And I think auditions led that. Also, it becomes less of a struggle to some of the talent that you seek out, because you kind of have a resume and the work speaks for itself. I find most of the time, 8 times out of 10, actors want to work and they want to do good work, regardless of their status, regardless of where they are in their careers. At the end of the day, we're artists, and we want to do work that can be inspiring, that's motivating, that you basically just want to be a part of. And that's why I always stress to filmmakers the importance of the screenplay. The screenplay is the blueprint, man, and it all starts with the script. If you could capture people's hearts and imaginations with a screenplay, it certainly makes it easier to sell them on your projects. I'm not doing $100 million projects, that's independent filmmaking. But again, people want to do good work. So with that being said, also having relationships goes a long way. It's always nice to be in a position where you could pick up the phone and call someone directly and tell them, I'm working on this project. I'm going to email you the script, and they, of course, they say their reps work for them. And so a lot of times, if you already got the artist's attention, it certainly makes it easier. But with that being said, auditions, I had a great casting director with Terror Lake Drive, and a Haitian brother here in Atlanta named George Pierre, who was done casting, every project out. I did a lot of big projects, so he came on board for this bad boy. And he was, him, our producer Samad Davis, they were extremely instrumental in helping us get some talent. And to that, I would also like to say it's always important to have a blend of, from the business standpoint, you need names to sell your project, but I also take a lot of pleasure in breaking in new talent and breaking in new faces. And I definitely take pride in feeling I have a good eye for talent and out people right before they catapult. That's always fun to be able to be a part of that process.
And one of the questions asked is, did Marquis ad lib during shooting?
I didn't hear you for the first couple of seconds, brother. I think you were muted. I just heard shooting.
One of the questions from the audience. Yeah, one of the questions from the audience is, did Marquis ad lib during shooting?
A lot.
He did.
A lot.
Marquis is an ad lib king, and I definitely gave him that free reign where it was appropriate. He was the comic relief of Amour Infinity, and Marquis is a talented brother, man, and he's a writer in his own right. And I think oftentimes, and I still take this practice, if you put the role in the right character's hand, it's safe to kind of give them a little leeway and let them do what they do. It starts with the decision of casting. It's all about what you do before the cameras come on. And that way, by the time we're on set, we could kind of just run with it. So he definitely did. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Another question is, audience wants to know, did you make any short film before Amour Infinity? Did you have like a tune-up? Jerry.
I didn't, actually. Amour Infinity was my very first. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, Amour was my very first film. So no, actually, I didn't do a short film before Amour. My first project was a feature film. As Jamie mentioned earlier, I was being advised to shoot a short for that very reason. Some more seasoned filmmakers were advising that I not do a feature for my first film, but instead do a short film so I could kind of get, have a better understanding of the fundamentals of filmmaking. But my cinematographer advised against it, and he said, "Look, man, you already just go all the way with it. Let's rock with it. Let's do a feature film." And he's a Columbia film grad, and he offered me some really good advice. And this is no shade on doing a short film, because ironically, kind of in a reverse fashion, as you know, Wilson, I would go many years later after having already completed many feature films. But he said to me, a lot of people have short films, but if you come out with a feature, especially as a Black filmmaker, you're already winning. You kind of, especially then in 2000, you're kind of putting yourself in a special place to be noticed and get the right attention. So I took that leap of faith, and I took that. Question, Jamie, regarding my piece, I actually ended up having a project during the shoot. I was shooting Infinity. We were throwing funds one day, and I needed to feed the cast and crew, so I pawned it. And unfortunately,
one specific question in regards to the film is, why did you choose to have Derek leave Amour crying alone in the bed?
Yeah, I still get a lot of slack about that even now, 20 years later. People come for me about that. I remember specifically not wanting to do the quintessential stereotypical happy ending film. I wanted it to be gritty. I wanted it to be ugly in the sense of, just from personal, that things don't summarize in a very pretty form. Things are ugly, and we make mistakes, and that we have to live with after the fact. And so I knew that would resonate with the audience, and that would make it even more painful and it would elicit a lot of emotions. So people are still talking about it 20 years later. So I guess it was good.
Jamie, can you answer that as well? What did you think when that scene came about?
So I can hear partial. Which scene are you referring to?
The scene where Derek leaves Amour crying alone in the bed.
And just the question is just what is the impact, or because I couldn't
hear. What was your interpretation of that scene of Derek leaving Amour crying alone in the bed?
Okay, I heard that. Thank you. Sorry again. I apologize. I don't know what's going on. I tried to go close to the router in the hotel. Anyway, so for me, that was a powerful scene. I mean, the decision to move on in the direction that is not necessarily what the audience wants to see. I think that's what Amour Infinity in a special place is, because as Jerry said earlier, he's a fan of the tragic love stories. Unfortunately, as much as I admit it, a lot of times that is how it looks in real life. So for me, that particular scene is powerful from a macro perspective of something that we don't like to deal with. We don't like to deal with love stories that don't end the way that we want them to. And for me, for my character, it's I just remember my interpretation of Amour and how I needed to portray that was one of bravery, because it's a powerful place to be as a human being, to accept what is very difficult to accept, to be able to emote that. So yeah, I think it's an unfortunate reality of real life, and I'm glad it's in the film.
Before we wrap up, so I want to ask each one of you, what did this movie do for you moving forward? Obviously, you've all became successful doing other things, continuing on, and when you do an independent film and it's a small crew and you're working a lot of hours trying to get this done under a short period of time, it's like Jazz said, it's a family, You're trying to get it done. You're trying to make it happen. I'm sure they were like, bouts in a way and so forth, trying to get it done. But you made it happen, So at the end of the day, as you continued your career, if you can go back now and think about it, what is it you took away from this movie? Because the movie can still play today and people will still get something out of it. But going back, what did you walk away with? I'm going to start with you, Jazz. What did you take away? And then Marquis, Jamie, and then Jerry.
I guess the excitement of seeing how it was all done, and I didn't have a horror story. That's what I take from it. I didn't have a horror story, and I made some pretty good, and I met some pretty good people, who told me some things. So, I mean, I guess I just learned that it can be done right, and there's no excuses to be made. I learned how to get to the page, and work under pressure. Like it was beautiful to see how you have to really be set and sound in yourself in order to deal with the pressure that comes with the things that we don't see, like the mishaps that people don't realize, like I guess that's what I take from it. Like it was good to see the behind the scenes and how things really run, because it allowed me to understand how things are handled for the next project and then the next project and the next project. So it just kind of set me in the tone to understanding exactly how things are done that we don't see. There we go. Yeah.
Marquis?
Yeah, for me, I think what I took away from this is just confidence. I mean, it was my first film, just like it was Jerry's first film directing. It was my first film being on the big screen like that. So I took away a lot of confidence. I mean, Jerry knows exactly 2 years later, I wrote, produced, starred in my own film that Jerry actually directed. So that confidence level for me went up tremendously when I did this film, and I was able to come back to LA and just start booking a lot of other things, and it just really gave me a jump start. So I definitely thank Jerry for that. He knows every day I talk to him, I still thank him for just being able to know him and getting me into this business.
Jamie?
So for me, I kind of touched on this earlier, but I'm for the intimate experience that I have.
She must be on that 2G. Can you hear us? Okay. We may have to call. I may have to do an audible. And Jerry, I guess it's up to you.
Yes, sir. I'll cap it off by saying this, man. It certainly and definitely changed my life forever, for a plethora of different reasons. For one, I will say, even coming off of Terror Lake Drive, one of the parallels I see when facing the daunting task and you have all the odds, everything is stacked against you in these projects, to come out on the other end with these individuals, because no one can do this by themselves. It really takes a village. I see that there's a bond that you form with these people when you come out on the other side. It's I would attribute it to. I mean, I'm not. I've never been in the armed service, but I would imagine it's like going to battle, going to war, going through the trenches side by side, and coming out on the other end of it. There's a bond that comes out of that, an unspoken bond that I would imagine, lasts forever. Like even that I see that I've had the pleasure and privilege of working with on other projects, and I see where they are now. Um, Even though we may not talk often or may not talk at all, there's a sense of pride and proudness that I possess for everyone. And I feel blessed that God has used me as a canvas, and just as God uses us to basically what I'm trying to say. We come in and out, we intersect into each other's lives to find our purpose. And lastly, I'll cap things off by saying, I think when I realized um, when things that very night, and as Jamie mentioned earlier, it was a packed house. There weren't any available seats. I was standing in the back. I was actually outside because I got to a point where I couldn't stand to see my face every frame. In every frame of the film, it was just kind of gets uncomfortable after a while. And so I stepped outside and I was pacing back and forth, and I didn't know how the audience was going to respond to the film overall. And I remember vividly standing out in the back, and I was saying to myself, wow, this is really, really hard. Like, this is difficult. What was I thinking trying to act, write, and direct my own feature film? I may have kind of overstepped my boundaries. I probably tried to do too. And I'll never forget this mother. And she came to the bathroom. She took her son to the bathroom, and he couldn't be more than 4 years old. So wherever he is today, God bless him. I would say he's probably a 25-year-old man now. And She said, we read your article. We heard about you in the Daily News. We read an article about your film and how you got it made, and we came out to support you because it's important for my son to see positive imagery and to see young Black men strive in for their dreams. And so we have a news clipping of that article on his mirror in his bedroom. And she said, would you mind signing an autograph for him? Back then, people still did autographs. This is over 20 years ago. There wasn't any cell phones or anything. And I remember at that moment thinking to myself, like, wow, this is deep. Like, this is actually a responsibility. This isn't a joke. It's not a joke for me. Time I am blessed with the opportunity to write something, actually shoot it, bring it to fruition, and direct it. I understand that there's a responsibility behind that. Like, this isn't a joke. I don't exploit those moments for foolery. Like, if I'm blessed to actually shoot a project, and I tell actors this all the time, tomorrow's not promised. You don't know when you're going to get another opportunity to do what it is that you do, what God put you on earth to do, your purpose, what fulfills you. Um, we're here to inspire, man. That's our job in beings, man. That's what God put us here to do. So anytime you have a chance to do it, anytime I'm behind that camera, anytime I'm in front of that camera, my mindset is this might be the last time I have a chance to produce and contribute something to society and to the world. So
Mhm.
interestingly enough,
We're gonna bring in.
Amour Infinity. That was more Infinity. Told me that was for that.
Mhm. So we're gonna bring in Jamie one more time if we can get her back in, and then Jerry, you'll have the last statement in terms of telling people where they can still find Amour Infinity. Let's see, is Jamie back?
Sure, I'd be more than happy to. Sure, I'd be more than happy to.
Let's see. We're just trying to see if Jamie's back.
Real quick, too, while we're getting Jamie on, I just want to thank everyone for tuning in and
Quick, so while we're
supporting.
getting
And I
Jamie on,
see
I
a
just
couple
want
of
to thank
names here, a
everyone
couple
for
people
tuning in
I
and
recognize. Thank you, Keisha. I see my man
Just being
Boogie,
by
my
God
man
and having
Rob
the ability
from
to
Brooklyn.
create
Now I
story,
gotta do my
to
shout
have a
outs.
vision ahead, and then to have it fully expressed on the screen and to share it with others, and then for it to be received by others is an incredible experience that I don't take lightly. Very, I just want to personally thank you for believing in me, trusting me with your baby, for giving me a shot, for seeing and recognizing the light in all of us, and more of a journey. We did it here for everyone to experience, and about cinema that when it's very spiritual, pair your intentions with others, and you come together. Tangible, but the intangible is the feeling that you get with the project, and so I'm grateful. You are,
I think we may have lost her.
and I'm
I think you lost the fam.
Okay, so Jerry, I'll give you the mic. I want to say thank you for inviting me to host this panel. Obviously, we go way back 20 years ago when I first met you. It's good to see that you're still working. Obviously, I'm always elated to see what the next Jerry LaMothe project is going to be. look at the movies you've done since then. From the films, the short films, the TV shows. It's good to see that there's always work that you can find, whether it be on a big screen or on a small screen. So like I always say, throughout this COVID pandemic, people have discovered that everything old is new again. People are going. We've had a lot of time being home to rediscover stuff. Whether it's a new series or an old series. Saying that, for people who jumped on here and may not have heard of Amour Infinity, or maybe they want to revisit, where can they find it now? Where can they find a movie so they can tell folks to say, listen, I saw this movie that can still resonate today.
Thanks for asking that. Listen, put it out there, let the audience know they can still see it. It's first and foremost, you can find it on Amazon Prime. That's probably the easiest place to find it. It's on Amazon Prime. It's on YouTube on the Maverick channel, Maverick Entertainment, which was the distributor, and it's also on another platform as well. That's not coming to me right now, but if you have Roku or Amazon Prime and you type in Amour Infinity, it comes up in at least 3, if not 4 platforms where you can see it for free. Well, I guess technically
That being
Is it?
Okay. Well, definitely, guys, I definitely appreciate all of you coming on board. Jazz, Marquis, you're still doing your thing. Obviously, for anybody that wants to find your work, do I say to go to IMDb? Or do you guys have your own websites?
IMDb, bro.
Listen, I love you, Jay. Yeah, you listen.
Love you too.
I'm just gonna say it like this. You can go to Google and type in JAS Anderson, and it will pop up like a pimple. How about that one? It will pop up like a pimple.
Jamie,
Right,
I'm sorry
all
we're breaking. Appreciate you and thank you. It was such a pleasure.
With that being said, I appreciate the audience tuning in. And obviously, we'll do this again in another 10 years, another 5 years. And as long as people keep talking about this movie, there's a reason to come back. And let's not wait another 20 years. 20 years is great to talk about it, but let's try to keep doing this 5 years, the 25th anniversary, the 30th anniversary. Keep celebrating this movie. Obviously, each one of you are going to have different projects that we'll probably talk about at different times. But for now, congratulations.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Wilson. You're the man. Appreciate you.
Take care.
All right,
All right.
God bless y'all, man. God bless y'all, man. Thank you. Peace.